Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I am Ricky CAMILLERI. Our next guests are the beloved twin brother comedians, Randy and Jason Sklar, otherwise known as the Sklar Brothers. You've seen them talk sports, make fun of celebrities, appear in shows like Curb, Always Sunny, and today they're gonna talk some shit with us. When I say shit, I mean literal shit. Their new film, Poop Talk, dares to go where no one else seems to be able to. Frank talk about poop. Let's take a look.
I just hated pooping so much that I figured poop is excess food or whatever. So I was for years a little obsessed with trying to eat the right amount. But then I would still poop.
People clock my restroom visits because somebody will see me go into a bathroom and be like, oh, that's the guy from Modern Family, and then be waiting for me coming out. It's like my worst fear. It's like, I'm glad I don't public poop. They'd be like, wow, he's 5 minutes in there.
It has this very powerful disgust biology associated with it, and then the culture reinforces all that with shame and embarrassment.
I'm okay with you knowing that I'm doing it. I'm just not okay with you hearing it, and I'm not okay with you smelling it.
I really think it's called number 2 because it's the second best thing you can do with your body.
My mother used to call them bowel movements.
Poop. Poop. Poop.
Poop.
Poop, poop.
Poop.
Poop, right?
I definitely think about poop probably more than most people. I don't know, maybe everybody thinks about poop a lot.
It's the only thing that we can all agree on that everyone does. It might be slightly different, but we all get it.
The way that we can take in and eliminate impurities, it's a biological marvel.
I don't think I've ever pooped in Royal Stadium. I don't think I've ever pooped in Dodger Stadium. I know I've never pooped at Staples Center.
I got poop all down my leg.
My legs didn't dangle below the door. Another dude, when he left, he thought he was by himself in the bathroom, so he just turns off the light. I was freaking out.
This still has not been verified by me. I may have cleaned up Nick Swardson's poop.
100% true, by the way.
Are you done with your poop talk?
I'm done with my poop talk.
Everybody, please welcome Randy and Jason Sklar, the Sklar Brothers.
Thanks, man.
Thanks so much for being here, guys.
Oh, nice to be here, Ricky.
Congratulations on Poop Talk.
It is this little movie that we made that we thought at every turn we're like, no, it's not going to go past this point. And it's not going to go past this point. And then, you know, it comes out the same weekend as the Black Panther, which was unfortunate for us. Yes. Just because we should have called the movie The Brown Panther. Yeah, that would have been great. Or Shape of Toilet Water we could have done. Lady
I
Turd.
actually love that.
Lady Turd. Lady Turd would have worked. Get It Out would be fine. Just missed opportunities.
Phantom Turd.
Phantom Turd, yeah, it would have been great. No, but it is this really simple idea that here's something that everybody does, yet we don't talk about. Why don't we talk about it? So we gathered like all of our funny friends and really smart, funny people to give their thoughts. Comedians are like amateur anthropologists. Yes, we study human behavior and then we reflect it back to the public with a twist on it. And that's what everyone did with pooping. And what we realized, even when we talked to you for 2 minutes after you've seen this film, everyone has a story.
Oh, yeah. And that's like one of many stories of mine that I briefly
told you. You trade in poop stories.
Absolutely.
You've got just an entire poopography. Yeah.
Sidewalk poets that, you know, give them $5, will give you a poem, give me $5.
You give a poop story. All right, great.
Story.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Well, it was a joy to make, you know, to sit down with our friends. The fact that we pretty much 98% of the people we asked to do it said yes.
I mean, Dame Judi Dench said no.
She flat out said no, thank you.
We're like, oh, you don't want another Oscar?
Fine.
Whatever, dude.
Sure, fair enough.
Whatever, bro.
Fair enough. But
when did it start? When did this idea come up between you? And I know that the director of it is a very good friend of yours.
Friend
right?
from camp, and we've known him since we were 14 years old. He approached us 2 years ago. Aaron Feldman, great filmmaker, great director. Yep. He said, I want to do a movie, The History of Poop. It's like a documentary.
And I want you guys to help me
make
produce it.
And we were like,
nope.
No,
we're
not going to. Can't do it because we were like, I don't know how we'd make that movie. It's not really our brand of comedy. I just don't know how we do it.
And he wisely said, think about it. Don't say no. Think about it over the weekend. Talk about it. And then come back and tell me the type of movie you'd want to make on this subject.
So we did over the weekend had like deep discussions about what if it's terrible, then we make a shitty movie. Like no pun intended or pun intended. Yes, we don't make a great movie. If it's huge, what if this is the way we're defined and that's not who we are? So we had deep discussions about it. We came back and
Poop
said,
talk guys.
right,
Yeah.
you get the poop guys, which I don't know if that's what we wanted, but
I don't know. You guys have had you've had a pretty long career before this. I don't think anybody would only be able to define you by that.
I think you're right. I think you're right. But what we came to was, what if we got our friends, people we loved and respected, and we know are funny, and we said, let's have an open and honest discussion about this thing, and we'll make it funny, and we'll, take care of them, and we'll be interviewing them. So anytime something gets, we stumble upon something funny, we'll keep going with it, and we'll make sure it makes it in the movie. And everyone agreed, and Aaron said, that's the type of movie I want to make, and so we were like off and running.
yeah. So it was really fun to do. We shot it over a couple of months, and then we started putting it together and showed it to people, and the reaction was always positive. I couldn't believe how much. And it was interesting because some of the places, the people who picked it up and helped kind of get it sold eventually to Comedy Dynamics, there were people that preferred content that did Jiro Dreams of Sushi and Arrival and all these great movies. And I remember he watched the movie and liked it and then said, I can't walk down the hallway and sell this to my, office here. He goes home that night and he's talking with his family at dinner. And they're like, what'd you watch today? What'd you look at? And he's
Dinner.
Yeah, dinner, of course. Going in and coming out. And he said, I saw this movie. They start talking about it, and then that dominates the conversation. Everyone at the table starts talking, and he thought to himself, okay, we got a movie here that could get people talking, which is so rare. To be able to have that sticks with you and it gets you talking, and so that's when they say, I got to do this. So it's amazing.
It reminds me of, for maybe lack of a better reference, it reminds me a little bit of the Aristocrats.
Sure.
In the sense, no frills.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just people sort of telling this story and telling their stories and telling their joke as simplistic as possible, and it works, and it gets people talking, and it lands because it is so no frills.
It is no frills, but yes, I mean, there isn't like insane high production values. We made this movie on a shoestring budget.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah, but so the stories then and the comedy and the viewpoints become the star as opposed to the wage.
I mean, Brad Williams in the trailer, he's dwarf comedian, really funny, tells that story in the center of this movie about going to poop. His legs don't dangle below the wall, below the little, door there. Someone thinks it's empty, goes in, does their business, turns out the light. And the rest of the story, I'm not gonna spoil it for you. You got to see the movie to see it. It's an unbelievable story. But it's not really about poop. I mean, yes, he was pooping at the time. It's not about that.
No, it's about
him. It's about what it's like to be Brad. What it's about to be Brad Williams. What it's like to be a dwarf. What it's like to be a comedian. His whole life. If I asked him, Brad, tell me the one story that encapsulates you. We're not talking about poop. He would tell that story. Right. So that's what was so great about Kira Sultanovich's story.
Well, that's because, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I mean, what's so wonderful about that story and why it encapsulates him is it's because it's this thing that everybody does, but because of who he is, it's done completely differently, and he's affected in a certain way.
Oh, right, yeah. and it cuts to the core of his being. And then also, I mean, yes, there are people, just someone probably stuck in a toilet right now. They need to get out.
I think it was an elder care ambulance.
Yeah, there's an elder care ambulance, so someone is stuck. We need to get the toilet crane.
We need to get her regular again. No, like you take Kira Sultanovich's story about emigrating from Russia, and that becomes like
a story about parents. I relate to that. We relate to that story. We're parents of little kids, and so we relate to what you do for your kid.
I mean, to me,
as Jews, we related to.
If that was written in a script, and if Meryl Streep was playing her mom in that scene,
and leaving Russia, all the people, the anti-Semitic townspeople are there to throw trash at them.
So if she's that woman,
think about Streep, like big orchestral music.
Okay, that would be like the scene that would play on the screen at the Oscars if she's nominated for the Oscars.
That's
I'm serious.
And that's a story that came out of our friend that we never knew. She tells the story. I mean, we knew she came from Russia, but we didn't know the circumstances surrounding it or that she had a story about it. So that's what this movie taught us. Like Pete Holmes is telling us, yeah, I have a good poop and I'll invite my fiance to come in and look at it and just inspect what I created right here. It's a little bit of creationism. And for that moment, I was like, wait, you're that open with your fiance?
It's like liberating.
Yeah, I'm like, how did we never know?
They don't have sex, though. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
that's true.
What's going on there.
But I was like, how are you that? How did we not know you had that level of closeness? Of course, we knew you guys were close, but that's an unbelievably evolved relationship right there. And so, again, what we realized, too, is that in this increasing world of Tinder profiles and
high-angle selfies.
Yeah, get the best look of me, with a sunset with colors that don't exist because I put a filter on it. And we're just trying to create this avatar of who we are. It gets further and further of who we really are. When you're pooping, that is exactly that you are at your ugliest, you're most vulnerable. You're most human, we would argue.
Did you ever ask your old friend, the director, where this idea came from for him? Why he wanted to make a documentary about poop?
I think he thought, from what I gather, I mean, we didn't point blank ask him, but we kind of understood where he was coming from. I think he thought he could make a funny and interesting movie, and this is the kind of thing that, again, is a super universal topic. Like, it's maybe the most universal topic we've ever tackled. Every single human does it, and every animal. So you have this very broad thing that everyone can connect with, and I think that's why he was drawn to it.
It's one of those great ideas that, again, is no frills and so simple that you're kind of like, oh, why wasn't that?
Yeah.
Why didn't I come up with that idea?
How has this not been made?
How has this not been made? How has this not been made? And I mean, it truly was a joy to make, and everybody in there who contributed, they were amazing and open, and even Steve Agee, our friend who's like a comedian who will talk about anything.
He's pretty open on stage.
He's really open about stuff on stage, doesn't mind getting crass, talks about his own health and failing health in funny ways. He was visibly uncomfortable the entire time, and it makes us laugh so hard where he's like, I hate this right now. He was just visibly uncomfortable. He said, I will never watch this. This is the most uncomfortable 15 minutes of filming I've ever done.
It's so strange. It feels like the only people who really talk comfortably about pooping, for the most part, are new parents.
Yeah, I mean,
new parents are the only people who will be like, yeah, the kid shit all over the place. It was in the wall, it was in my hair, and blah, blah, blah. And then once the kid is...
That's a Tuesday morning for most parents.
Yeah, and then, once the kid is potty trained, it's all done.
I know, it's all done. Although, like I said in the movie, my kids are unbelievable. I have daughters, and they're just like ridiculously bold. We'll go on a plane. They'll be like, I got to go to the bathroom on the plane. I'm like, wow, that's bold.
Bold.
I would never do that. And they're, go in, here, come in with me. So she'll invite me in the bathroom, and she'll poop, and then she'll just leave and not flush. I'm like, what? You realize that in some cultures that's seen as an act of aggression.
Oh, yeah.
That is a threat to people.
Isn't that how World War I started?
I think someone pooped in
Someone left a poop in Archduke Ferdinand's toilet, and it was on.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
It was on.
He was quite upset.
He was really, that's, hey,
naturally.
Nations fight nations. But
oh, shit!
So it was, so it's amazing that I want them to always be okay with, now that I'm from the other side, I'm like, you guys just be cool with yourselves. It's like a self-respect thing.
Were you guys with your director for all the interviews?
Yeah.
So you were doing the interviews with him?
Yeah. So he was directing kind of how it looked and everything, and if we were missing anything, we would look back and be like, did we get it all? Are you happy? But for us, we do podcasts. We do 2 podcasts and have guests on all the time. And a lot of these people are people we've had on. So to sit and talk with them is a very natural thing for us. And we didn't want it to feel like just an interviewer asking like a litany of questions. But again, they're all people we've created comedy with before.
Right.
So when Stonestreet started saying, I
haven't pooped.
I said, I know you're a big sports fan. Like, where have you not pooped? And he starts listing the stadiums. In my brain, I go straight to the editing of this movie. And I'm like, let's do a whole list. Tell me everything you've never pooped. And when he said just the phrase, I've never pooped at Qualcomm, that just made me laugh.
Comedy.
I was like, that's comedy. And he just lists, just keep going. And we knew we had a bit right there.
One of the big differences of talking to someone over a podcast is that you don't have to have context for different sound bites. So when you were interviewing them for this, were you relying on your director to sort of go back and ask them a question a certain way or get them to answer the questions a certain way? Or did you guys sort of have that?
I think that's a great question. I think we sort of knew, and this was a lot through Aaron, our director, we kind of knew the areas that we wanted to maybe divide the film up into. So we want to make sure we covered certain areas, like parents and,
men and
women and
your own personal stories, and then your own attitudes towards it. And then why do you think people have the attitude they do about it?
Right. And I think once we touched on all those, then if there was any way, we tried not to steer answers ever, actually. We really tried to get natural answers, but we knew the areas we wanted them to play in.
What are your attitudes towards shit?
I mean,
I was first of all, I poop in my son's bathroom. which is just payback for the first 2 years of his life.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna
crapped all over me. I'm giving it right back to you.
Oh, did I forget to flush? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You want to come in here and wipe me like I did for you? No, but it was. No, I do that. I think I do that also when in my mind I'm like, well, I'm going to be respectful to the bathroom I share with my wife. I'm going to make sure that this is not, I'm going to take care, which may be my own weird thing. Like, I think I still have some issues. I've gotten better since making this movie.
Oh, yeah. We finished recording the interviews, and I went on a river rafting trip with my family. Now, you are out on a river in Idaho with like 4 other families that you just met. And there's one glorified bucket that everybody goes in, and there's a little tent around it, but it's out looking at the stream. And I don't know, talking to everybody and just realizing that we all have hang-ups and we've all got this and that changed the way I thought about it. And those
were you able to go?
Yes, and those were some of my most favorite poops of all time.
Because your story in here that you guys tell is when you were at summer camp, neither of you went for like 2 weeks.
Jewish summer camp, 2 weeks for me, 11 days for him, and we're eating Jewish food. So like imagine just like tons of matzah and guilt and just all that stuff. It's like just piling up. I'm surprised the food wasn't at my throat after 2 weeks. Like, and again, we would like play sports and go sailing. I don't know what we were doing. And we were just, nervous to be the new kids in like sharing a bathroom scenario. Thank God we did it, because then you go to college and you got to share a bathroom, and it's like the whole thing. So it really opened us up a little bit. It's a good thing to go away for camp, because that sort of teaches you how to be on your own. You don't have a choice. But we definitely handled that wrong.
We had unisex bathrooms in college, and I remember so many instances of walking in
with a woman would just,
and there's a woman in there like, oh, no.
Nope. Yeah, I know.
I'm out of here.
Well, that's and what did you go to? Really progressive college, small liberal arts school? Yeah. So I mean, Bard College.
Hampshire.
Yeah, Hampshire College. No,
University of Alabama.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
They're so progressive.
No, but that is, I think it's great. This movie maybe can spark a little bit of discussion, and I think people are discussing it maybe a little bit more. Now, the other side of it is that there are people who deal with, our friend's wife deals with Crohn's, which sucks. We have friends who deal with IBS. That's terrible.
I mean, ultimately, if this movie gets people to, I think it's good to look at what you just did and kind of analyze what just happened and have an idea of what's happening. If something's wrong and you don't check, or you try to ignore it and pretend like it's not happening, then you could be hurting yourself down the line. If you're like, something doesn't seem right, I'm calling my doctor, maybe you get screened. Maybe it's screened for colon cancer.
So it can just, if we remove the shame element a little bit, and with a movie like this, if you're laughing at it, I mean, and there will be people who won't even...
That's a question, though. If we remove the shame element, does that remove the humor of it?
No, because I think look, it's okay when you watch this movie, people will share stories that are horror stories that are maybe, I'm going to guess, as bad or worse than anyone else's horror story. And if you can sit and see how they've turned it into a glorious story that gets laughter, then maybe you're like, well, maybe I can share this crazy story that I have in my life.
When we've been doing the radio tour promoting this thing, a DJ told, again, everybody's got a story. So we're doing this thing, and he told such a great story. He was at a concert when he was 25 years old. Middle of the concert, he's like, I don't know, I just ate some bad food beforehand. It's like, it's about to be the intermission, and
he didn't want to get stuck in the thing, so he raced,
had to go so badly. He's like, I'm not going to make it. He runs in the bathroom. I mean, races, gets in the bathroom, sits down on the stall, fires down his pants, and lets it go. And he's like, I felt so good. I was sweating. The feeling of relief on me was unbelievable. You could see my face. It was like total and utter bliss, until I started to hear the voices that were outside of the stall in the bathroom. All women. He had gone into the women's bathroom. And it's like, how do I get out of here? Like, I got to wait for people to leave, but now it's intermission and the bathroom is packed. Like,
I was like, it was 2018. You can walk out and say, I identify as a woman.
Yeah.
But don't go in there, because that poop identifies as a shit.
There you go.
Do not go in there.
Could have done that. But that was just such a great story that came out of, again.
But everyone's excited to share it once they know that we've already sort of
opened the door.
Yeah.
Left the door open, as it were.
The stall door open.
I want to go to questions, and if you have a question, I want you to also tell us if you have a poop story and what your relationship to talking about poop is before you ask your question. So think about that. Who's got a question?
Hi.
Do you have a poop story?
Well, there was this one time that in middle school that I was like really needed to go to the bathroom really badly, and I ended up going to the women's bathroom by mistake because I was like that desperate because I saw how bad the boys' room was.
So you made the conscious choice that I'm going to destroy
It
this
was
for
empty,
young girls.
so I was like, I might as well.
What was so bad about the boys' room?
It was packed with people.
Yeah, it was packed with people. Yeah, basically.
Dude, that's bold on your. Good on you.
Yeah. I got out, without anyone noticing. So
that was a step towards gender equality. Yeah, pooping. Listen, pooping is fluid. It's all on a continuum. Yeah, that's right. There's a poop continuum, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, pretty much. So I was wondering, since you guys got to do this movie, is there have you guys started talking about any other topics that you guys want to tackle on?
That's a great question. I mean, obviously, we'll see how this movie does and if there's interest in doing another one. But, I mean, there are other taboo subjects. I mean, masturbation. You never know. I mean, there are a lot of other things you can talk about that people have shame around.
Jerk talk.
Jerk talk. Thank you. Beautiful. Perfect. Yeah, but I do think that there's a formula here in terms of opening people up. It's a great question. In terms of opening people up to taboo subjects that we don't talk about. Look, I believe if we are a more open society and do it the right way, it's better for everyone. It's better for everybody. I really do think it is better for everybody. If we're a society that talks, I don't know,
That's always been the primary goal of comedy. I feel like stand-up comedy.
To open us up a little bit. I mean, look, comedy plays upon how frigid we are at times. Like when you dig into a vulnerable thing and there's laughter can come from many places. Nervous laughter when you're touching on something that makes us a little uncomfortable. But that's not the only laughter. Laughter of, yes, we all understand. Yeah, because you're still going to poop. It's not because we're talking about it, we're not going to do it. I just think you open people up and it's a much better, we're a better society. We grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, Bible Belt. It was very much an area where, I don't know, the influence of that, felt like a very constrained society. You go down to New Orleans, and it's just a free-for-all. It's so great. We went to, I'm just using this example, we went to New Orleans, we went to our hotel, checked into a Marriott or something, and the guy at the desk, he said, "Do you guys want a beer?" "You guys want a beer?" We're like, "Sure." Yeah. And he points down and he opens up what looks like it's a cooler, and he says, "They're $3 a can." And I was like, there's a bar right over 50 yards. The hotel bar is 50 yards. Do they know that you're selling this stuff right here? And I was like, I can't believe you've got a side hustle and you're working here. But I'm like, that's so New Orleans. Anything goes down there. And it's just a wonderful, fun place because... But that's not how the rest of America is. No, it's not at all. And so you sort of how can we loosen this country up a little bit so that it's, because it just feels so fun down there.
If the rest of the country was like New Orleans, that would be amazing.
Oh, my God. It would be...
Then there'd be no New Orleans.
Yeah. Right.
Then, yeah.
If the rest of the country would be like France. Look, if the rest of the country moved a little bit towards New Orleans, that could be better for the rest of the country. I think that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying.
Next question. Who's question? Right here.
Hi. So I guess I have to have a poop story.
Shit story.
Right
on. So one time I was at a public restroom and I went to pee and then I had to, what I thought was just fart, but while peeing, but it turned out it was a little bit more than that. Yeah, well, yeah. So that I ended up having to go to a stall and
dispose of the evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you have to throw your underwear away?
Yeah, actually I did.
Unfortunately. I've been there.
Yeah, we've all. I think we've all been there.
I don't want you to feel alone.
I mean, that is the definition of hubris. You know what I mean? You think you can handle it, and then you can't. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I mean, I think the moral of that story is you should start peeing sitting down. That's right. Just because you clearly don't understand your own body.
Yeah.
All right. What's your question?
So I know you would talk to a bunch of friends and comedians. Did you talk to any scientists or biologists, in terms of the science behind pooping?
Yes. I mean, we're friends with Dr. Drew, and Dr. Drew Pinsky gave us great psychology of how do we get here? Why is there this shame surrounding it? And really, it's born out of the idea that at the beginning,
our poop carried a lot of disease, and so as soon as you did it, people were like, "Get away from it!"
Yeah, and
you could die if
and
you.
he's like, thankfully, it smells bad because that's a good sign.
It helps you to sort of say, I don't want to be away from that. And once that gets ingrained in the culture, it's very hard to like lift the shame off of that. But we did talk to scientists who talk about like how much we poop every year. We get facts in this thing, like how much you poop a day, just where it goes and how it travels. And so we did have a little bit of that in there. We did not want to make a science film. That's not what we wanted to make. And
Because I think in an earlier cut of the movie, there was more science.
Probably like 20 minutes of science in this film, and the film was about an hour and a half, and we thought, okay, this is too long. This is not the movie we want to make. We shouldn't be making a science film. We should be making a comedy. Yeah. And a couple times people were like, there should have been more science in it, and we're like, we tried, but it just didn't fit. Trust us, we hear you, but it just didn't fit.
No, this is a movie about personal stories and people's personal relationship with going to the bathroom. Yeah. As soon as you drop to, I mean, there is a little bit of science in there.
It's a little bit.
The film is also the perfect length. It's exactly what you want. It ends and you're like, oh, that's great. I could have watched a few more minutes of this. You're not like,
that's it.
Wrap it up, guys. I get the shit here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we watched it in opening night when it was in the theater in Los Angeles. The coolest thing about it is at the theater at the Laemmle Monica in Santa Monica, we didn't know anyone in the theater, and they had to move it from a smaller theater to a bigger one. So that actually made us really happy. And just watching people react to it and watching a whole theater laugh, because there are a lot of really you watched it, there are a lot of laugh out loud moments. That's another thing that I think we don't really see that often, is like to be in a room full of people and hear like just collective laughter is a wonderful thing.
Guys, I love the film. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's in theaters now. People can see it?
I think it's out of theaters, although it might go to be in a theater in Dallas.
But it's on iTunes.
Oh, great.
It's on VOD, I think, still on your cable.
Yeah, video on demand, iTunes, Amazon, you can get it. It's, again, it's one of these little movies that could, and we need all the people.
I mean, this is what we'll say. If you're watching this show and you're a fan of this show, you already are a fan of independent art and creation and alternative ways.
Because we've watched this show.
People talking.
Yeah,
people
talking.
And being funny. So, this is your chance to support independent art and a creative movie that will no doubt make you laugh for 70 minutes and make you talk. And it'll just drum up all these hilarious stories. It's a wonderful experience.
Absolutely. Guys, give it up for the Sklar Brothers. The movie is called Poop Talk. Let's hear it.